Attorneys cannot claim expert status in any field of law. The name of this program was arbitrarily picked by the host.
Welcome to Ask the Expert with noted radio host Steve Sleeper. Each week, Steve interviews entrepreneurs and professionals and shares their intriguing stories of success and service. Now, here's radio veteran Steve Sleeper.
Our guest today is Bonnie Klein Rhoden with the Rhoden Law Group in Rockledge, Florida. I began the interview by asking Bonnie about estate planning.
Estate planning sounds like a fancy word, and I very often have people tell me, well, I don't have an estate. And I chuckle at that, and I take the time to explain that your estate doesn't necessarily have to be large. An estate very often for a typical family is a home, a couple of cars, a 401k, an IRA, maybe a college fund if there are young children. And of course, if you do have young children, then the children themselves are part of the plan. The plan can include situations such as long-term care, either after an accident or an illness or during our elder years. It also plans for transfer of assets either during your lifetime or upon your death. There can be trusts, which can be very simple to hold a house, or they can be complex for those people that have corporations and different entities.
Okay, now then, what is a trust?
Well, a trust is gosh, it's hard to explain without using my hands. Usually I describe this to people by creating with my hands a big circle like you would see in the cartoons. It's an entity. It exists in the virtual world, and it's a bubble into which you place assets. There's an instruction book that goes with the trust itself, and that's your trust document. And that instruction booklet appoints a person who is responsible for caring for the trust, administering the trust, managing the assets of the trust. And that can be the owner of the property, or it could be somebody appointed. Also can be a professional trustee. And it holds assets. And the purpose of creating a trust is variable. Some people create it because they want privacy of their assets and not to have things disclosed during their lifetime or upon their death. Some people create trusts because they want to pass assets to future generations. So grandma creates a trust to support herself during her lifetime, support her children during their lifetime, and then with the remainder going to the grandchildren. Some people create a trust to take care of firearms. They're called gun trusts. Some people create pet trusts. Some people hold entities like a corporation in a trust. It creates a layer of protection in some cases against creditors or suits. So hopefully that's not too complicated of an answer.
No, I liked your circle analogy there. That made a lot of sense. I know this is radio, and so we can't see you using your hands, but I still got it. I still got a vision of it. So,
Good.
Okay, tell me about a will, and then what happens if a person dies without a will?
Okay, this is a very common document, and I prepare wills every week. I'm preparing wills for people. At its essence, a will is a document that gives the instructions on how to devise or distribute your assets upon your death. It also can and does include instructions about your desire for a funeral service or a celebration of life, whether you wish to be cremated, buried, if you want to try out the cryogenic storage of your body. It can also talk about organ donation, and a will can also create a trust upon your death in order to control some of the distribution of assets. Now, what happens if you die without a will in Florida is the state of Florida has written your will for you. So everybody in Florida, you have a will, but if you don't like what the state of Florida has written for you, then you create your own. The state of Florida basic transition of assets is if you have a surviving spouse, your assets will be devised to your spouse, depending whether or not you have minor children. But basically, it goes to your surviving spouse first. If no surviving spouse, then to your children, all of your children equally. And then if no children, they look to your parents. If no parents, then to your siblings. So there's a series of checks that happen when the state determines what to do with your assets.
And now I've heard the term probate. Is that what that is, or what is probate?
Well, probate is the process that is overseen by the court to distribute assets from the decedent, who is the deceased person, to whomever is supposed to get it. So when a person passes, if you have a will and the will has instructions on what to do with your house, your car, or various other types of assets, then the court oversees the process of actually distributing them, having the house retitled, getting a car retitled, moving 401k or IRA or cash assets, stocks, bonds into Susie, Janie, Johnny's name as identified in your will. If not a will, then it goes to the person that's identified in the law, which is what I had explained earlier. Probate process, a lot of people think probate is a four-letter word. It's really not. It's an organized process that is overseen by the court. I have a lot of people ask me, well, how do I avoid probate? Well, there are ways to avoid probate. Some assets are easier to pass without the need for probate, such as using a beneficiary designation on a bank account. A car can be easily transferred outside of probate. But your house is not always an easy thing, and people want to put their house into a trust to avoid probate. And I have conversations with people about that to talk through the pros and cons of taking on that responsibility during your lifetime or allowing your house to pass through probate and have the children or the person who's going to be receiving that gift take care of it on their end. So probate is a good thing. It makes sure that your instructions are followed. It is not, people think it's terribly expensive. It does not have to be. The state actually determines how much an attorney can charge for probate, and it gives a sense of control, which brings peace to the person who's doing the planning, knowing that there will be an attorney and or a judge involved in taking care of their instructions.
This is good information to know. What should we look for in an estate planning lawyer?
Well, you should look for me, of course.
Good answer. The perfect answer.
Well, when you're choosing an attorney, I sort of compare that to choosing a doctor. If a doctor says they're an orthopedist, you can presume that they have the proper training and can do the work related to your skeletal structure. When you're looking for an attorney, you want to look for somebody who does either estate planning. Sometimes they're referred to as elder attorneys, which elder attorneys do different types of work along with the estate planning. Or you can find somebody who does wills. It'll say wills, trusts, and estates, or wills and probate. And once you've identified, maybe 2 or 3 attorneys that are in your area that can help you with this planning, you want to look at their biography. Usually they're available online. My full bio is available on my website, along with all the other attorneys here. And using me as an example, you would find that I'm a former professor, having taught Introduction to Law at Florida Institute of Technology, which is a local university. You would find that I have a strong business background, and you would find that there are a lot of comments out there on the internet of people who are very happy with my service. People like me because I take the time to explain what's going on, and it's not all about get you in, get your check in my hand, and get you out the door. I'm all about educating. I think that's important. I think a lot of people who work in the estate planning area as attorneys do like to educate and take the time to do that. So you want to find somebody who's going to spend the time with you to explain it, and that goes to the decision of, do you like this person? Because this is going to be somebody who's going to be creating important documents for you. So, look at their experience, make sure that you're in the right field, make sure that it's somebody that you feel comfortable with their background, and then get them on the phone and see if they'll take some time to talk with you, because if they rush you off the phone, they're going to rush you out of the office.
Yeah, good point. And one of the things I can tell just talking with you, Bonnie, is you like people. So that's yeah.
I do. I do like people, and I think people generally like me as well. So it's a good thing, and I enjoy my work, and I think that shows.
Our thanks to Bonnie Klein Rhoden with the Rhoden Law Group in Rockledge, Florida, for being on Ask the Expert today.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Expert with Steve Sleeper. Join us next time as entrepreneurs and professionals share their intriguing stories of success and service.